Are we doing a scary stat? I mean,
Yeah.
I have a quick one. Okay.
Yeah. And then do you guys have any muscle flexes?
I found an amazing
Oh, good.
one.
I don't
I
have
mean,
one.
it's more of the same crap. Like it's nothing new, but it's pretty hilarious.
Okay, I've got one that I'll use, and then, but I don't really think mine is a good one to end on. So if yours is really good, then we'll.
Well, mine is like a whole conversation with the same old jackasses who always say the same old crap, but it's funny.
Yeah, we'll end
So.
on that one. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm really nervous about getting my hair cut.
Don't be.
I know. I just like I'm kind of nervous because I've had like the same length, just like a three.
Well, here's the thing though.
Like I'm nervous what it's gonna look like if
you
I
can go in, have it cut, like get it a little longer cut, and if you don't like it, you just buzz it.
Yeah, I know.
That's a
What I
good
thought
point.
about. But I kind of wonder if I should let my hair grow longer, so there's kind of more to work with.
That's what I've just started doing. So mine on top is actually getting pretty long.
See, mine's all the same length, and then it like goes like, so I've got all this like crazy sideburn and like over my ear stuff, and
Get
I don't
the
really know.
chops.
Well, yeah, just go to some barber and just say you want want it all cleaned up.
Tell them you want to look like it's 1950.
I know that's what I was kind of thinking. I'm like, man, I should just do the Dapper Dan,
Yeah.
slick it.
The upper Dan.
Unfortunately, I don't have the forehead for pulling my hair back. I got the crazy wrinkles and the indents. So like, I don't think it would really look right to like, have it go way back. But I don't know. And then I'm worried about like, is my hair gonna fit in my hat? I don't know, man. It's been a stressful day for me.
You'll be all right. As long as it's not long on the sides, it'll still fit.
Yeah, my hair is very poofy though. But I guess if I use that stuff, it'll like really slick it down. So maybe I'll be all
I
right.
love this conversation.
Yeah, actually, yeah, you should be good because mine gets pretty curly and kind of feathery looking if I don't put anything in it,
Yeah.
and it looks better. Yeah, with the crud in it.
Yeah. So I think I'm gonna try the Brill cream. I mean, just go like, I don't know. I might buy some at Walgreens tomorrow and just see what it does. to
Brill
my hair.
cream.
Yeah, it's like Ian uses
It's
it.
Dapper Dan.
Right. So like Ian.
Oh, it's
and
like
so I
Elvis
talked to
stuff.
Ian. I talked to Ian and I'm like, okay, so what do I, like tell me about this stuff. He's like, oh, it's great. You don't have to wash your hair for like 3 days. Yeah, I think I'm still gonna wash my hair.
Oh no.
Ian, you can go without washing your hair for 3 days. I don't think I can do that.
Oh, that stuff looks amazing.
I don't know. And then like, but man, red hair is like really hard to pull off doing that kind of stuff too. I don't know.
You're
Stressful.
overthinking it.
Oh God, I overthink everything.
Why would this be any different?
Exactly.
Whoop. I got some stupid ad playing and I don't know which tab it is.
You can see the little speaker.
God.
I think we should start a second podcast where we just talk about guy stuff.
Like Brill cream.
Isn't that Ian's? I think that's Ian's idea. Or are you making fun of Ian?
No, I didn't
Oh.
know that was his idea.
Yeah, because he asked me. Maybe Patrick was there too about doing that.
One of my podcasting friends, Dan, he's talked about doing that. And he has a name. Like he's already got.
There's got to be one out there already,
Oh,
isn't there?
I'm sure there is. But I forget what he called, like something over beers. I think was what I forget what it's called. But he said he just wanted to do something where guys just talk about guy stuff.
All right. Okay, I'm ready. If you guys are.
We are live. Oh, okay. Before we get started, I did want to ask you guys. We haven't done one of our Patreon game watches, like hangouts, in a while.
Nobody showed up last time.
I know. Would
Not even Andy.
I did show up last time.
Oh yeah, you just couldn't talk.
Right.
What about like Tuesday or Wednesday of this week? The Cubs are playing the Reds.
Boy, let me look
It's like
here.
a 6:00 start. I got my Warby Parkers. Do you see that, Kurt?
Oh, I didn't. Nice.
Yeah, and then I got I ordered my 5 home try-on sunglasses today.
Oh,
I think I'm
cool.
all right. I got to get them adjusted though, because they slide down my nose.
You know what I do? It sounds crazy. Just leave them, like when it's real hot, leave them in your car, and they'll
Yeah.
get real warm, and then you can kind of bend them around.
Yeah, I kind of don't trust myself to do that.
They're pretty, well, yeah, it's a little nerve-wracking the first couple times you do it, but then you realize you can pry on them pretty good.
Yeah. Today would have
That's
been
all
a
they
good
do
day
at
for
those
that.
places. They heat them up, and then they bend
Right.
them.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Um,
I definitely can't do Wednesday, but maybe Tuesday.
Tuesday I probably can.
okay. Well, let's just do it Tuesday then. And I mean, I probably will be in and out, but
Yeah.
let's plan on it. Okay, I think I'm ready if you guys are. Oh, wait a minute. Guess I better test our levels.
Check, 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 check. Hello, hello, hello.
Oh, I got to turn my recorder on first.
Check, check, check.
Checkity check, checker.
Oh no, that's amusing me so much.
It's damn funny.
Taylor's in the chat. He says, "Man envy."
That might not be the best name for it.
He also said Corey has hair. Surprisingly, I do. All right. Why don't you guys talk real quick?
Now I don't say anything.
I was like, what? What's he doing now? Let's go, ice cream shirt. Get with the program.
Check, 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 check. Hello, hello.
All right. I think we're okay. Okay. Real quick before we get started. So check out this thing. I found this new. This is, you guys may not be interested in this, but I don't know if you noticed, Kurt, on the last episode, like after a few minutes in, your volume dropped like way down. And so like I turned it on in the car to see what it would sound like, and I kind of found myself having to like turn it up when you were talking and then turn it back down. I found this program that it basically what it does is they're trying to like establish like a loudness standard in broadcast stuff. So like it's the law that like commercials can't be super loud when you're watching TV. That there's like this like loudness standard. It has to be at this level. So like down the road there could potentially be that for podcasting. But I was at that conference and they were talking about how like it's kind of good to have a standard. That way, like, if you listen to a lot of podcasts, you'll know that like some of them you listen to you have to turn way up and then some of them you have to turn down, and that like people that are wearing earbuds, if you're one of the ones that's really loud and they're just listen to something that was really soft, then you're gonna like blast their eardrums. So anyways, I found this program and I did the 1-day trial thing. It's like $80. I haven't purchased it yet, but I'm probably going to. And it goes in and identifies different speakers and then within one track and then pulls and then like equals them out. So I ran that file in through it because I knew that you were a lot more quiet in a lot of spots, and it went in and identified you and then pulled you up to match Andy and me. And then I listened to that file and like we were all the same. I was like, that is amazing. Because you can see,
awesome.
like, you can do that, like, if everybody's in a separate track, but
right.
Usually if everything's in one track, there's not a whole lot you can do about it without affecting everything across the board. So, I don't know. I thought that was pretty awesome.
That is cool. You don't think it's a matter of me, like, being too far away from the mic, do you?
I don't know what it was. I haven't really noticed it as much, but that episode I noticed it quite a bit. Maybe you backed off the mic. I don't know. So then what you can do is it'll pull you up to the podcasting and like radio broadcast.
Does it do it like if I'm louder at the beginning and then soft at the end? It doesn't do them all up.
Right.
Just the parts that are low.
It identifies the spots that are low. It's pretty amazing. So, but I haven't bought it yet. I probably will with our next Patreon chunk. Okay. Oh, Taylor asked in the chat what we use to record. I go into this digital recorder, and then I pull the SD card out, and then I dump it into GarageBand. So I just use GarageBand to do my editing and processing and everything, but it doesn't go directly into a recording program. Okay. Bet you $10 I can't nail this on the first try.
Not now.
All right, here we go. This week, the Cubs ground crew found itself in the middle of a scandal. Edwin Jackson has continued his losing ways and was placed on the disabled list. We will look at his future with the organization. The Cubs host social media night, and I'll talk about my experience at that event. The Cubs minor league teams entered the last week of the 2014 season, and we'll talk about the postseason chances for the different teams. We'll answer listener questions. Kurt will give us his scary stat of the week. We'll read internet muscle flexes and pick a winner for this week's photo caption contest. All of these things and more on this episode. It is August 24th, 2014, and you're listening to the 268th episode of the IVNV podcast. Hi, and thanks for downloading this week's episode of the IVNV podcast. I am one of your co-hosts. My name is Corey, and I'm joined by the other two hosts of this podcast through a Google Plus Hangout.
Yo, it's Andy.
And Kurt. Yo. Mixing it up.
If you would like to watch and listen to this episode as we record it, you can go to ivnb.com/live at 8:30 p.m. Central on Sunday evenings. And there is a video player there that you can watch, and then there's also a chat that you can log into and hang out with other people that are watching. Before we get going, I wanted to talk briefly about the social media night that the Cubs hosted on Thursday evening. I went up with Michael from Galesburg, host of the Awesome 80s podcast. You can find that at theawesome80s.net. And we met up with some Twitter folks. So if you're not following them on Twitter, I wanted to give a shout out to... do I need to say at before everyone's name? Can I just say just do the little at symbol first before you check them out? But Justin Jabs, M Phelps 11, all _weather _fan, and Rob _Willer. Let's see, Harry Pav and Bleacher Nation, and yeah. So if you follow Cubs news on Twitter. I'm sure you probably recognize those Twitter handles. I had no idea it would be that hard for me to list those things without saying at. I'm not used to saying _ without there being an at right before that. But I had a great time with those guys. The weather was not ideal at first. We were supposed to do. They were going to have Dave Kaplan. What is that show he does? I don't know, Chicago. Something live, Sports Live or something. What's that thing called on CSN?
Sportsnet Live?
I don't think it's called that anymore. I think it's something about Chicago. But anyways, he was supposed to record that there or broadcast it live there. And then as Michael and I went to a bar and to hang out before we went over there. And then as I walked up, apparently Comcast had all of their stuff was sitting on the ground, and it was sitting in huge puddles of water. They had to go through squeegees and empty the Captain Morgan's Club out of empty it from water. So he didn't do that there. So that was kind of their pregame activity, and that was ruined by the weather. So that was kind of a bummer. Yeah. And I kind of felt like it kept some people away too, the weather. But the group that was there, like, we had a lot of fun. And then if you watched on TV, all weather fan, that's Danny, and he was the one that was on TV during the broadcast when the Cubs took us down there to talk with Kelly Kroll. Which, like, I feel like such an idiot. I can't believe I was standing in the wrong place.
Yeah, you were the floating hat behind her head.
Right. Like, I mean, I wasn't trying to, like, be, I wasn't exactly like I was, like, trying to get on camera and, like, do anything stupid, but, like, she turned around and said to us, I'm pretty sure, I thought she said, I'm not real sure where the camera is. It's somewhere behind home plate. And so I was thinking, like, my definition of behind home plate was apparently different than everyone else's.
I thought it was hilarious that I think as your mom said, you look like Wilson from Home Improvement.
So I was standing, like, I thought I was standing right in between them, but apparently I wasn't. But that was really cool that the Cubs took us down there and let us talk about social media and stuff. And they actually took us down in I think it was around the top of the 7th, maybe the bottom of the 6th or something. We actually got to sit down there for a little while, and I think Michael was in heaven because he was basically sitting in that little broadcast box, like, right next to the dugout.
Yeah.
And, like, I've never sat that close to a game. And it was really cool to be down there, and it was just amazing. I mean, this is kind of stupid because most people have sat that close to a game, so it's probably not a big deal to them. But I was just amazed at the speed of the game from that vantage point. And mainly, like, I just want to say Hunter Pence is amazing.
Jeez.
He went first to third on a play, and he ran. I mean, actually, I was sitting next to Kevin Sagi of the Cubs. We had him on the podcast, I think, last year. But I was sitting next to him and we were talking about it, and he made a comment, like, after Hunter Pence hit a single, he was like, he is deceptively fast. He doesn't look that fast. And I didn't really notice on that single, but then when he went first to third, it was crazy how fast that guy runs.
Yeah,
He
but
flails around like a fish on the bottom of a boat, and so he looks probably faster than he is.
Andy calls it the Willis Tower.
But he, like, and he overslid third base and, like, almost, like, tore the base up out of the ground and stuff. I mean, it was just, like, the most not graceful player. But man, I just love watching him play.
Yeah.
But what I found amazing about that is I was sitting there and I'm like, I find it amazing that the Cubs would trust guys from the bleachers in the 8th inning to go on TV and talk. Like, it is amazing that they trusted us.
Well, if we're to judge you based on your text to us, like, yeah, you probably shouldn't have been picked to go on TV.
Yeah.
I had sobered up by that point. Michael and I had gone to a bar, and Old Style was there, and they were providing us with free Old Style.
What does it mean that Old Style was there? Were the, like, representatives that
Right, yeah.
were...
I got a really nice Old Style shirt, but yeah, they were and then they were handing out these, like, firefighter Old Styles, which Michael's a firefighter, so that,
That's
was
cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, we drank a lot and quickly there. And so I drank a little bit too much to start the evening off. And once we got into the game, I didn't drink at all. I just drank soda and water. I was trying to hydrate myself and everything. But anyways, it was a great event. And if you're into the social media thing, if you're on Twitter, or even if you're not, like, you should definitely attend this event next year. I'm really hoping that they do it. I mean, it's just really cool because, they give away some, like, one person that was there got to go throw out the first pitch. And,
Yeah.
I mean, even if, I think last year there was maybe, I don't know, I'm not good at estimating numbers, but I think those events, they kind of have, like, maybe 300 or 400 people do it, maybe 300. And so, I mean, like, you have a 1 in 300 chance of going down on the field and throwing out the first pitch. Like, that's pretty awesome. And one of the couples that was there, they won a drawing, and so they got to go up into the booth during the seventh inning stretch. They didn't sing, but they got to go up there and like take pictures and stuff that the Cubs would then use on their social media stuff. And I don't know. I really like what that the Cubs are doing that sort of thing to kind of, I don't know, just give fans that talk about the Cubs all the time, like just kind of give them like a little bit of a special treatment or whatever. I think it's cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it looked like a lot of fun from this end. I was actually pretty jealous of you this year. So
I know you definitely should go next year. And
yeah,
it is fun. It kind of sucks because it's a weeknight. It's not ideal for those of us that live further out. But this time Michael went up when we got a hotel room and kind of planned ahead a little bit better, because the other nights that I've gone, living 3 hours from Wrigley, I would have to leave at like the 6th or 7th. I think I left right after the 7th inning stretch, so I have to walk to my car and then drive all the way home and everything. So
well, you think about it too, like they're getting together the people who have cared the most about these terrible teams the past few years and
Right.
paid the most attention and basically doing God's work, and they they deserve to be treated well by the Cubs.
Right. Yeah. Yep. And I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's really nice, and I hope that they continue to do that, because I think it's a good event.
Mm-hmm.
Well, moving on. Who would have guessed a week ago that the biggest story in Cubsland this week would involve the grounds crew?
Yeah, the funny thing is that, well, the first incident, there's actually been two, but the first incident's kind of old news by now. I think it happened Tuesday, and I'm sure most of you have heard about it, but the gist of it is that there was a weird sort of small monsoon that hit Wrigley. The umpire, it was kind of a perfect storm of situation where the umpires didn't really call for the tarps soon enough, and then by the time they got out there, the tarp went on crooked, and they were understaffed. They didn't get it out in time. Field took on some water, then they finally got it out, and they pulled it off, and they dumped a bunch onto the field, basically making it unplayable. And that's where the 4-hour delay, I think 4.5 hours maybe, trying to get it playable, because it was through 4.5 innings. So technically the Cubs were awarded the win at the point that the field was deemed unplayable. So of course the Giants were pretty upset about it and protested, and then they ended up finishing the game on Thursday. So, but yeah, it was a kind of a disaster, and there's been a lot of talk about it. On sports talk and stuff like that, and people trying to point fingers at a certain place. It looked like, it was a lot of different people, I suppose you could blame. The grounds crew, they're saying now was understaffed due to some overages in work hours the previous week, and so yeah, it was kind of a disaster. And then, sort of to make matters worse, the funny thing yesterday is, I don't know if you guys know about this one, but yesterday they were pulling out the tarp, and one of the grounds crew fell, and went under it, and I guess Renteria had to go out and pull him out. Which I watched the video they provide, and they show the guy falling, but they don't show him being pulled out. But I'm kind of wondering, so the guys next to him knew he's under there, and they kept going.
He watched him fall. I think
right, but then there's got to be a scenario for him to get out. But then why didn't the other grounds crew go get him? Like, why did Renteria have to come out and Brandon Hyde, the bench coach? Like, why were they the ones that had to come out and get him out? Like, they seemed alarmed. Like, oh, we just need to get him out of there. But the other grounds crew was like, yeah, whatever, he'll figure it out.
Because of Obamacare.
Yeah, thanks, Obama. So that one was pretty hilarious too. I don't quite understand the details around that one, but yeah, the grounds crew has had a rough week.
I think that it's fairly common for grounds crew members to fall and to end up underneath the tarp. I mean, you see it all the time.
When they I assume, crawl out, maybe.
And I think it would be too hard to stop that long line of people.
Oh yeah.
I would imagine those tarps are. I would imagine it's loud down there. You're moving a lot of stuff, and I can't imagine you being like, "Oh, wait, there's somebody under there." I think it's like you just crawl to your nearest exit.
And after what happened on Tuesday, like, nope, not stopping. You just gotta keep it going.
It'd be funny if that's like part of their deal is like they have to bring a snack in like a canteen in case they fall under. Because if they fall under, you have to stay there for the duration of the rain delay.
There's like a compass so they can figure out where.
And a little knife to cut an air hole.
Well, okay. So I mean, I think we should really jump into this whole conversation. I mean, Andy kind of referenced the Obamacare thing.
Yeah. That's from your buddy. What's his name?
I don't even know how to say his name.
Tellender?
I don't even want to take the time to figure out how to say it.
I think it's Tellender.
Yeah.
Sun Times guy.
So what he kind of did, and then like everybody's run with that, that Kurt, you referenced the work overages or whatever, and that the reason the Cubs are trying to keep their employees or certain employees under a certain number of hours is so that they won't have to provide health care.
Right.
And it's got to be hard to staff.
A normal thing to do.
It is a normal thing to do. I don't know. It just seems like there were a lot of I don't know.
There was a lot of things that built up into a really horrible scenario. But the thing is, like, as I listened to,
it could be worse though. Is there really a horrible scenario?
No, I mean it worked out in the end. Like they played the game. Well, that's the kind of the point is that people flip out over everything. And it's like at the end of the day, these are human beings, and they screwed up. Like they would be the first to tell you that too. And everybody wants to jump down their throat because somebody messed up. Well, so what? Somebody messed up.
And
Get over it.
It's one of those things. I think it's one of those things too where we've reached the point with just the hyper. I should have thought about how I wanted to word all this.
Hypercriticism.
Hypercriticism and hyper analyzation. The hyper analyzing of everything, and that like when something starts to go wrong, then every single little thing that goes wrong. Like, tell me why in the hell was the fact that they threw away an inedible cake in April? Like, why was that so reported and discussed? It's stupid, and it's because they. Go ahead, Andy.
Man. I was just gonna say, do you guys remember any other times where the ground crew messed up?
No. Well, maybe they did, and we just didn't hear about it because there's, people didn't freak out as much. But not like this. Not to a point where, at the time, they thought the Giants had lost.
Right.
Yeah.
But because of it, so it was kind of a big deal. But at the same time,
it was really surprising that this was the first time in 28 years that they had. So the Giants they didn't challenge it. What is it called?
Protested.
Yeah.
Or
was it a protest? I don't think it was a protest. Anyways, whatever they did, MLB sided with them, which is the first time in 28 years that that's happened. So that was kind of surprising.
I don't think it was the right call. I mean, because both teams wanted it, and they got the game in, and then the Cubs won.
I think it depended on like how much of the blame should have been on the umpires. If the umpires did wait too long, I mean, it was basically like not raining and then an absolute downpour, and those tarps were taking on water. I mean, even if I guess let's look past the whole like were they short-staffed or whatever. Like, I could see that being something where like maybe somebody should have communicated to the umpires like, okay, it's about to like.
Well, you know what? I think they said something about how it didn't really show up properly on radar either. Like, the White Sox game went off without a hitch. 8 or 9 miles away.
Right. Well, I think just a mile or two up, north of there, it didn't rain at all.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just a weird thing, but
yeah,
whatever.
I don't know. I just think we've reached the point where like you're gonna have. I think. And I mean, I'll just say this: like, I compare it to Notre Dame.
I knew you were gonna say that.
I think you reach a point where you have like Notre Dame has people that hate Notre Dame, and no matter what happens, if they mow, a piece of grass, an area in the wrong direction, you're gonna have somebody criticize that. And it seems like it's that same thing where like there are enough people that hate the front office and hate ownership, and really, in some ways, I think, are maybe just feel like they need to stick to their guns because they've opposed it at some point along the way. And so I think they just have to grab like everything that could possibly be, you know, a bad situation, or just I don't know. They turn everything into like it's a black eye on the organization or something, and it's just like it's just things that aren't that big of a deal, and they're just blowing it out of proportion.
Yeah. Yeah, especially Cubs are holding social media night. They got to compete with us to some degree now. I mean, us generally in the broader sort of social media scheme. And, of course, they've got to do something big to get clicks and get listens. So they're going to blow things out of proportion.
Right.
As much as they need to. So, I don't know.
Yeah. I just feel
it
like
still makes it fun to argue. I mean, that's kind of partly what's fun about sports. You get to argue about dumb stuff. And at the end of the day, I think everybody knows it doesn't matter.
Yeah, although yeah. I was gonna say let's argue about the rebuild. Let's argue about the different strategies that they've taken. I think you could have you could have an argument about should the Cubs have rebuilt from scratch and not done anything in the short term to do something for the long term, or should they have bought a few pieces along the way that would have made them somewhat competitive. I think you can have I think you can have that discussion, and it could be somewhat constructive, where this stuff is just stupid, especially when you start bringing politics into it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Obama.
Yeah. So
yeah,
be ready to put that to bed.
There's your weekend grounds crew coverage. This is gonna be a regular segment now. We're gonna cover the grounds crew. I'll update you on the number of staff. Whether the tarp was deployed or not.
Right. Okay, well, let's move on. I believe that here in October is when we usually go back and look at our season predictions episode.
Did you say October?
Yeah.
Oh, you said in October. You just said
in October.
Do you think it's October? Oh, okay.
No.
Are you under the impression that it is currently October?
No. When the calendar reads October and we decide to go back and listen to our season prediction episode, am I doing okay, Kurt?
Okay, proceed.
It's quality control.
Anyways, when we go back and listen to that episode, I think we'll find out that I think all three of us, but I definitely know that I was very optimistic about Edwin Jackson. I think the three of us were, but yeah. I know I was. I'll confess that I was. And I think it's safe to say that things did not go the way I thought they might for Ejax this season.
No, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's pretty sad how predictable his starts for the Cubs have become. He hasn't pitched into the seventh inning since May. And in his 2 seasons with the Cubs, they've basically been the worst of his entire 12-year career. He just recently went on the 15-day DL with a right lat strain. And when I first heard that, I was kind of a little bit skeptical, but it sounds like it really has been affecting him for a while, which would make sense, and that it's caused him to get into some bad mechanical habits as he's tried to adjust to. He talked about how he's had to work harder to get to the velocity on his fastball that he's accustomed to, and stuff like that. So he's going to be out for a little while here, and it is giving some of the other pitchers a chance to get in there and get a look and stuff like that. So that's a good aspect of it. But this season, he's leading the NL in losses with 14. He is also leading the NL in earned runs with 94. And so, yeah, it's safe to say that our enthusiasm or optimism regarding Jackson was pretty, misplaced at the beginning of the season.
And when we say, when we said for the first half of the season and looking at Jeff Samardzija, it was wins and losses don't matter with pitchers and everything. I don't know. It feels like losses are pretty indicative of how he's played this year.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I think
Edwin Jackson.
more than anything, like the 94 earned runs. I mean,
Right.
he's not controlling the things that he can control. He can't control how much offensive support he gets, but he's just not taking care of his part of the bargain, I guess. And so,
But it doesn't really seem like it's a lack of effort or something. You know what I mean?
no,
Like, and that's why I hate to see fans like really come down on him and get
it does. It
nasty
sucks.
about it.
It sucks how he's become kind of a joke, you know. I want to watch the Cubs, but is Jackson pitching? I might not watch, or, so that's kind of frustrating. I read a blog post from Sahadev Sharma about him, and in his article he said that, and this is quoting him, that Jackson is also one of the hardest working and most respected players in the clubhouse. So it's not as simple as just like cutting him loose or trading him in the off season or something like that. Because for one, the Cubs still owe him $22 million for 2015 and 2016. I mean, as a whole, $11 million
Right.
per year. And then he's also he is a veteran leader. And I've heard that from other sources than just that blog too. Is that he's a guy that provides some just veteran leadership in the clubhouse. So,
Right.
so yeah, these have been really rough seasons. But you got to remember that this guy, he was an All-Star in 2009 with Detroit. In 2011, he had pretty good seasons with as a whole with the White Sox and St. Louis, and really like his career 4.61 ERA is, if you look at his FIP, it probably is realistically closer to 4.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like he could get back to a 500 ball season. It's just go ahead.
I was just gonna say I think it's time to start considering his bullpen options because you just kind of push aside what he's gonna make. That's a done deal. There's nothing you can do about it. But he still has good stuff. He still pitches well for a few innings a game, but he can't put together a whole 6-inning, 7-inning game where he has that two bad innings either to start or towards the end of the start. And so I don't know. I think he's still got really good stuff, but
Right.
he just can't hold it together long enough. So I don't know. I think he looks like a good bullpen transition candidate because he could be a pretty valuable guy out of the bullpen.
Yeah, I agree too. But the problem is that he's struggled in the first inning quite a bit this season too, in general. But you're right about his stuff. He still throws 93, 94, and he has good break on his pitches. He just hasn't had good command of everything. So
Here's what it is. Here's what they do. I think that it's time to think outside the box. I think, okay, so inning 1 and inning 6, those seem to be his rough innings. So you have someone else start. You bring in just some reliever. Like
Brian Schlitter, first inning.
Exactly. Schlitter's going to go out and pitch the first inning. And what Jackson's going to do is he's going to pitch in the bullpen during that first inning.
It's like a bullpen session.
Right.
Like it's a simulated game.
Right, and then the second he comes out and everything will be okay.
Wow, that is outside the box. But anyway, if you look at like the Cubs' most recent playoff teams, they don't have a lot of pitchers that are below. They don't have any pitchers that are below 500, on the roster. But then also, what's really interesting is if you look at those pitchers too, and you look at their FIP and things like that, is really like their ERA. Most of their ERAs are not indicative of what they really are either.
Right.
So having a good team behind you makes such a big difference too. But
yeah, I'm just really hoping with him that he can, Bosio can work with him in the off season, and they can, maybe he's just going to have to change the style of pitcher that he is. If he's feeling like he can't hit his fastball like he feels like he should be able to or something, maybe he's just going to have to kind of change who he is. But I just hate to see just all the negative stuff kind of directed at him when it's clear that, everything you read talks about is, how hard of a worker he is and how good of a teammate, like you said, Andy, and it's just you hate to see, just because somebody's struggling, it's not always a lack of effort. That's not always the reason that somebody isn't playing well. And I would say more often than not, that's not the reason they're not playing well.
Yeah, but you wonder, like you said, changing his stuff. Like he throws a fastball, a slider. He mixes in a sinker sometimes, and then he has a curve as well. But he also has a change apparently that he rarely throws, and maybe that's something he could try to add in there. Maybe change up the repertoire just a little bit or something.
Right. Yeah. So he's on the DL now. And
how long?
It's a 15-day DL.
Okay.
Right. So, I mean, do you think that's kind of okay, you're done for the year? Like, I don't really see a reason to bring him back this season.
Well, it's not so simple as just being like, all right, we're just going to say you're done, right?
Well,
I mean, you put him back on the roster, but you can shut him down. I mean, you could. I don't know.
Yeah. But, I mean, I could see him coming back and maybe pitching out of the bullpen, just see how that goes. Why not? Like this, if he comes back.
Well, by the rosters will be expanded, and I think they'll just have a lot of options.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even though I think it makes sense to try him out of the bullpen, I don't think they probably will, because I think the ultimate goal at this point would be to bring him back next year as a starter,
right.
Have him win a few games and gain some value, and then unload him. So,
right.
I don't know. I think at this point the play is just as much like try to rebuild value as it is to, figure it out for him and the Cubs.
Right. Yeah. Let's move on and look at some minor league baseball. The regular season ends in minor league baseball on Labor Day, a week from tomorrow. So I thought this might be a good time to look at how each of the teams are doing and kind of look at where they stand in their chances for the postseason. So let's start at the bottom of the system, and we'll start with Boise.
Okay, so the Boise's still in the hunt, and their overall record is 37-31. But the way the Northwest League playoffs, and this is true in other leagues, but they have first half winners that make the playoffs, and then you have your second half winners that also make it from each. There are two divisions, and the team that won the first half is the Hillsboro Hops. So there's a fun beer team. But it looks like they're going to win the second half as well. So then when that happens, the next team with the best record wins, which would be Boise. So right now they have a 1.5 game lead for that second spot, which would get them in. And they have 8 games remaining. So it's not a done deal yet. They still have to play well in the final stretch, but they have a shot. So they're still in it.
All right, and then Kane County, Low A Midwest League is the next team in the organization, and they've already clinched a postseason spot by winning their division in the first half of the season, and they're like absolutely tearing it up. They lost today, but until today they had won 13 in a row. And the most runs that they've given up in a game in that stretch is 4 runs against Cedar Rapids. In that stretch, the pitching staff has thrown 2 shutouts, and they've allowed 1 run 4 times. So playing really well. So they finished the first half of the season with a 45-25 record, and right now they're 86-45 on the season, which is like, I wish that they would have been good at that level when they were in Peoria. That's pretty amazing that they're playing so well. So they're 16 games ahead of Cedar Rapids, and they're in second place. They're the second place team in that division. And really, what's carried Kane County? They just have great pitching this season. They have Paul Blackburn and Dwayne Underwood, Jen Hosang, Jonathan Martinez, Tyler Scalina, Juan Paniagua. And Ben Wells is pitching really well for them right now too. So I think they're in the playoffs, and I think they're pretty hot right now. So if the pitching can continue to perform the way that that it has been, I think you really have to like their chances in the playoffs too. And and looking at you knew that the pitching was going to be pretty decent there this year, but you kind of wondered. I mean, when you compared the offense to last year, it didn't look like they were going to have quite as potent of an offense. And offensively, like last year, they had Vogelbach was there, and Almora was there, and I mean, you had power too. Like, wasn't Rock Shoulders was there, right? Yeah, yeah. So I mean, you had more power and stuff, and so it looked like that might be down a little bit this year, but the pitching is significantly better, which is really encouraging, for an organization that has, not the greatest pitching, so organization wide or whatever. So, yeah. So, but one thing to keep in mind too is that these playoffs move pretty quickly. For instance, Kane County. For them, it's a best of 3 series in the first round. The second round is also a best of 3, and then the league championship is a best of 5. So it's over in like a week and a half, basically. So it moves pretty quick. So then moving on up from Kane County is Daytona in High A.
Yeah, Daytona. They have a 37-25 record, and they're in first place right now. They've been pretty hot lately, and that it looks like that momentum will push them into the playoffs easily. I don't know if I said they're in first place by 2.5 games over the Tampa Yankees, so they're going to need to stay in first and win the second half, because they had a really bad first half, really bad record. But then they had some help show up in the form of Kyle Schwarber. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. But so he's
okay.
he's starting it up right now.
Yeah, and so he's making a pretty big difference there. But they have some other players that've been around there this season that like Vogelbach, for example. So they're a good team, and we'll see what they can do in the postseason. Because it's looking like they'd really have to fall apart to not make it.
Right. Yeah.
And they play Tampa. They still have a series coming up against Tampa also. So it's kind of like, control your own destiny.
Right. And then how about Tennessee, Kurt?
All right, so Tennessee is a good team, but overall they're just 65 and 67, but they've played better in the second half, and they're 32 and 31. So they are in first for the second half. So if they can pull this off, they will make it. The challenge of them, they do have a 1-game lead over Chattanooga in the North Division. But it's going to be a rough haul for them to make it, because they have 7 games left, and 5 of those games are at Chattanooga. So in order to pull it off, they're going to have to obviously win that series. In the next 2 games, they'll have to just kind of stay ahead, and then going into that final 5-game series, it's going to be tough to play on the road against a team that's chasing you. So they're technically still in it, but it's going to be hard.
Yeah. And then, Andy, how about Iowa?
Well, they were pretty dominant early in the season, and so lately they've been really falling apart. And they've had a tough time this season just with all the roster movement, and so it's really been kind of a volatile thing for them, just trying to play consistent baseball, I guess. Right now they're 68 and 68, and they're 4 games out of first place, and they just got off of an 8-game losing streak. They broke the streak with a win last night. So there are only eight games left, and it's looking like they'll basically have to sweep 2 4-game series to make it into the playoffs, and also rely on some other teams to lose a little bit. So it's looking pretty grim for them to make the postseason, which is too bad, because we do want to see Bryant and Soler and some other guys get some pro baseball postseason experience, but
maybe the Cubs can do what wasn't there a team last year that demoted someone right now, a week before the playoffs started, so that they would be on a team with
I think you're right. That sounds familiar.
I can't remember who did that.
Yeah. But for me, I kind of selfishly want to see Soler up at Wrigley as soon as possible too. So I'm not going to be brokenhearted for them to not make it, but still, it probably would be better for those players to make the playoffs, I suppose.
Right. Yeah, and I think that it's hard to. I mean, it's cool to see these teams. The organization wide, the minor league teams are a lot more competitive than they have been in recent memory. It seems like there would be like one team that would maybe be heading to the playoffs or something.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say in the last 5 or 6 years, it's kind of felt like that. Anyways, I might be wrong, but. We heard at the beginning of the season that Tennessee and Iowa, they were going to be the most exciting teams in minor league baseball this year. But I think there's a big difference between being the most exciting teams because of individual players and then being the best teams. And I think Tennessee was really interesting at the beginning of the season, but then as promotions happen and stuff, there's a lot. You're right. I mean, you mentioned kind of like with the Cubs having to dip down and use a lot of players from Iowa and stuff, that really kind of ruins the flow of a team. And I mean, they're all there to serve the big league team. It's not like they need to think like, oh, maybe we should leave Logan Watkins in Iowa just to, or like Matt Caesar. Maybe we need to leave him there, because Iowa could really use a center fielder. I mean, you just don't.
And right, and then having like a crazy impact bat for Tennessee like Chris Bryant in your lineup every day, and then all of a sudden it's gone. And then same thing with Iowa and Baez, and then all of a sudden he's gone, and so that's tough to deal with.
And then you also have pitchers that are coming up, pitching a game or two, and then getting sent back down. And I think it's I think we see a lot of those players get called up from AAA, those pitchers, and just perform really well because they can get up for that start, But I kind of wonder, it would be interesting to look at like when they get sent back down, like what's that first start like when they get sent back down? Is there kind of a letdown, or I don't know? It just seems like there's a lot of things that can affect the record of a minor league team.
Yeah.
But it is cool, and man, I can't believe the minor league season's almost over. Like this season has gone so fast.
Yeah, it really has.
Well, before we get to questions from listeners, if you enjoy our podcast and you shop on Amazon.com, if you go to ivmv.com and click on the Amazon ad on the side of the page, Amazon gives us a percentage of your purchase for referring you. It doesn't cost you anything extra, and it helps us pay the bills. And also, if you know that your employer purchases stuff through Amazon and you have a little clout with the person that makes those purchases, maybe let them know about this too. It won't cost them anything extra at all, so that would make a big difference. So, guys, I thought this might be a good opportunity to play a little Chuck Mangione. Okay, so while I'm playing Chuck, I was at work. A guy that I work with, the Cardinals fan I talk about on here, he brought me in a Chuck Mangione Feels So Good LP, and so I have it sitting. I had it sitting next to my desk. And, it's the beginning of the school year, so we have some new people working and stuff like that. And they brought in somebody to introduce to us and stuff. And she walks in and she goes, "Ooh, Chuck Mangione." I was like, "Oh, we're going to get along really well." And she had seen Chuck Mangione. She thought maybe in 1977.
Oh, man.
Wow. I didn't tell her that was the year I was born, but she was pretty excited to see the Chuck record. So anyways, you can leave us iTunes reviews, and those make us, as Chuck's song is titled, feel so good. And we have one review to read this week, so I'll do that. This is from the Australian iTunes store. So this is from FlashCoin17, and it's titled #TeamBert. It's a 5-star review. It says, "This is a must-listen for all Cubs fans, even baseball fans in general. I didn't know much about the game as it is not heavily played here in Australia, but their insight and jokes make it easier to learn and enjoy whilst still catering for the hardcore. I listen every week. Thanks, guys."
Awesome.
Yep, Team Bird is a thing. So we do appreciate the feedback and your ratings and reviews. They help us with visibility in iTunes, and it makes it so that more people can find out about our show. So thanks to FlashCoin17 for leaving that kind review. And also, if you use Stitcher, you can leave us reviews in there too, and that helps us. So let's take a look at some questions from you, the listeners. And I ask for these on Monday or on the mornings of our recordings through Facebook and Twitter, ivmb.com/Facebook. We're at ivmb on Twitter. I just decided Google Plus is just too much of a pain. I'm just not good at it. It's not one of my. It's not one of my strong suits. Is keeping up with the Google Plus.
Okay. But it's no one's strong suit.
I know, it's so hard. I mean, it's very easy. It's just hard because you forget
Nobody
about
uses it.
And then we are at IVMV Podcast on Instagram, which I am trying to get back into using our Instagram. So if you're on there, look us up because I'll start putting more stuff up there. So we got a really nice email from Tom from New York this week, and Tom is a new Cubs fan. It was really nice to hear from him, and I'll read a portion of his email. He says, I'm a recent Cubs fan. This is my first season following the baseball or the Cubs. You probably don't hear that often. In some ways, I feel lucky to not have suffered along with other Cubs fans. The future seems amazing for this team, and I only have to endure one truly awful season. When I talk to my buds about baseball, they laugh in my face and tell me that every Cubs fan for the last 100 years has spewed the same garbage about prospects, and they don't believe an ounce of it. Sometimes that makes me worry that my obsession with the Cubs will not actually yield any Bryant-Baez flavored joy.
Oh, that's a great little tidbit right there.
He says, so he's got a few questions here. First, he says, shouldn't you feel less confident considering your heart has been broken in the same exact way in the past by the Cubs? So that's
No.
the first one.
That's what makes us Cubs fans, so welcome.
So you're saying it doesn't make you less...
No, it doesn't. But I'm also, I should say, I haven't been in this as long as you have. I've only been in this for, 15 years maybe? So, only half my life, whereas you guys, you've been at this your whole life. So
I think there's always kind of that voice in the back of your head saying yeah, maybe you shouldn't feel so confident about this. I mean,
you shouldn't feel so good.
Well, yeah, so you guys taking me to task for expressing reservations about bias, for example. And now you're like, well, maybe it is natural for us to. But you know what? What they're doing now, it's kind of different than anything we've experienced in our Cubs fan, lives. And
well, I think in the mid '80s, I seem to remember there being, and I wasn't in no way was I following the Cubs as like I am now in 1985 or '86, but you still had that if you look back on it, and I remember going to see a lot of those, the Mark Graces and Dunstons and Maddox, and watching all those guys in Palmeiro kind of come up through the system. I kind of see that it would be somewhat similar as far as excitement over a crop of players. But I think that talent evaluation and everything is so much different now. I don't, and in no way were those players failures, obviously,
Right.
But
well, and this actually touches on his next couple of questions too. But as I thought about this, it's in the past, this is a different game. I don't think anybody could argue with that. Like you were saying, talent evaluation, sabermetrics, data, everything is data driven. And when you look at it from that standpoint, I think what Theo and Jed do, put emotion aside, and they look at it, they're very analytical. And in the new era of baseball, we have Theo Epstein, Jed Hoyer, Jason McLeod, all either have been GMs or McLeod would be a GM had he not turned it down.
Right.
He pretty much had the Padres job. And they're three of the best in baseball at that type of baseball, and that's what baseball is now. Outside of Billy Beane, they're probably the best, and that's, I suppose, arguable. And we have three of them. So when I look at it, when people are like, "Oh, aren't you going to be disappointed? Like they're just going to bust?" And I can't predict the future because if I could, I suppose I'd be in Vegas right now. But I
No,
don't think
that's why you've stuck with this podcast, right, Chris?
Yeah. I do bet on us weekly. Does that ban me for life? But it's just I just don't see the bust. I'm not predicting a World Series here, but I don't see a major flop. I just don't see it happening because it's a different era and there are different people running the show. And if you go to Cubs.com, you'll see a different take on Theo and Jed and Jason. But
Yeah.
but still, I'm pretty confident in them, in what they're doing. So
I mean, so in the past, like they've had high payroll and bought a team, in many ways, and either won or had some success, and then they've done that and lost also. Like 2007 and 2008 come to mind. But then, what about, 2009 and 2010? So it's like it's a new thing. Like maybe they'll do what they're doing now and then lose in the LDS, just like, so it'll be kind of like similar to 2007 or 2008. But I do see them having more success as we go forward here for sure. Like I think that's a fairly safe bet to make.
And that's really the hard. Sorry, go ahead, Corey.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's the hard part too. Is like GMs don't win playoff games, so I mean they build a team that could make the playoffs. I think the goal is to be a perennial playoff contender.
Right, and they've made that clear from the get-go. That's what they want, and I think it's really easy for people to say, and I mean, in no way am I going to say like that the Cubs have been misrepresented as losers. They clearly have been losers for years. But there's one team that wins the World Series every year, and other teams have had long droughts. The Red Sox, there have been teams that have had long droughts, and I think it's just kind of tired, I think, to say like, oh, we've heard this before. Well, guess what? You've had every organization in baseball that has said, wait until these prospects come up, or like get excited about certain prospects, and then it hasn't amounted to anything. It's not like the Cubs are the only team that this happens to, or has happened to.
Yeah.
His second question is the golden age really coming?
And that's what I meant about my earlier rant. I think to some degree it is.
Best case scenario, yes.
To some degree, the golden age is coming.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean.
Scenario, yes. Like worst case scenario, maybe like the Bronze Age or something like that.
Yes.
And then the last question he asks is, how silly will you feel if the Cubs have the worst record in Major League Baseball in 2017?
I won't at all.
You won't feel silly?
I'll be annoyed. I won't feel silly.
I'll feel silly. If I will feel silly if in 2017.
Oh, yeah, I suppose, yeah, but
I texted you guys earlier about how I've been like kind of preaching the gospel of like what's going to happen with the Cubs to Cubs fans who haven't been paying attention, and I kind of feel.
Let me hear your pitch. What do you say?
I kind of feel like I kind of feel like a prophet a little bit, And
I want to hear your pitch. So pretend I'm a Cubs fan, and I'm just like, I've heard this before. Prospects.
Felix P.A., Corey Patterson, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
What? So yeah, they're gonna be good, man. I just
sold.
They're gonna be good, man. Just
Enough said.
Whoa, man, that is like a pure prophecy right there, Andy. You're such a prophet. No, it's different. They'll be good this time.
It's different. They're gonna be good. You're gonna like it.
I'll tell you what, though. Sorry, I'm kind of flipping it, but the other side of that coin is that for all the idiots, I think they're idiots that are like ripping on Theo and Jed and shit kits, that if the Cubs are good in 2017, I think they're gonna feel sillier. Because if they lose in 2017, we're just like, well, just another Cubs flop. At least we have that in our back pocket. Those guys are gonna be like, damn, they were right. The rah-rahs were right.
You know what, though? Like, if they are bad in 2016, 2017, at least they're going to be able to have more viable pieces to build around, you know?
Well,
Like,
not only yeah. Sorry,
they're
go
going to
ahead.
be able to identify, like, okay, well, who was effective this season? And they're
Right.
going to have more of those players who were effective, you know? And so it's going to be easier than to wait
not-
till next year.
Well, not only that too, but you also look at it and it's like, okay, let's say 2017 is a flop, or 2016, or let's say the near future is a flop. Then they say, oh well, we only spent $60 million, so let's go spend a bunch. I mean, like
Yeah.
they're not going to do that, obviously. But I'm saying, like, you've kind of left yourself some options when you rebuild in this way, that if you need to go out and buy, I mean, kind of like you said, Andy, like, what if you realize, like, you know what, these outfielders just aren't going to work,
Right. Or the scrap heap pitchers or whatever the case may be.
Well, I mean, even if you just say, like, Soler and Almora, like, yeah, they're not going to be, they're not going to cut it. Then
Well,
you've
and that's
got a ton of money sitting there that you can spend on those pieces. So
Yeah, you could see a 2017 team with what, like 100 and somewhere between 130 and 150 million. Who knows what that? I mean, numbers go up every year. You're going to see a silly payroll come up here.
You know what,
soon.
though? I still have trouble seeing them saddling themselves with a Soriano-esque contract ever again.
But this time around, they're going to have the money to pay for it.
Right. But, I mean, it's going to be a smarter contract, too.
right.
You know, it's not going to have
It's
all
not
the...
going to be the 35-year-old to a
Right.
7 or 8 year deal. It's not
Right.
going to be the Pujols deal.
With all kinds of no-trade clauses and what have you.
Right. Yeah. So, anyways, well, it's good to hear from you, Tom. Thanks for sending that email, and thanks for giving us something fun to talk about.
My pitch really is better than that, but I mean, we've been pitching the same pitch that I pitch on the podcast every week. So
Andy doesn't have a
You've heard
changeup.
it.
That's his only pitch. Four seam, right down the middle.
right down the middle.
They're going to be good.
Brock on Twitter, he says, should the iCubs grounds crew be called up in September?
Sure. It probably includes Manny Ramirez. I think that's part of his duties.
Oh. That's racist.
What?
Nothing.
Dawn, she says, okay, perhaps I'm delusional, but I'm curious what our win percentage is since trading away Samardzija and Hamill. I feel like we're a better team now than we were before the All-Star break. Maybe I'm just on an Oriole butt-kicking high.
All right, so I looked it up. So here's the real numbers. So before the trade, they were 38 and 46, and that's a 452. After the trade, they're 19 and 26, and that's a 422. So they're actually worse. However, they lost the first 6 after that trade, 6 in a row.
Because everybody was
Um,
depressed.
Right, but the good side of it, and I think probably what she's part of the high she's on, is that in August they're 12 and 10.
Yeah.
So they're improving.
And since the All-Star break, they're 18 and 18. So they're a 500 team since the All-Star break.
Yeah.
In a period of time that I think if you went back and looked at July and August of the last couple years, I'm not
Abysmal.
imagining this. Right, they were awful. And so the fact that they're playing 500 ball at this portion of the season is kind of it does feel good.
Yeah. And here's another
Especially
quick update on
ass
the
of a AL East leading team.
No kidding, sweeping. But another update on some of the numbers is Samardzija is 6-3 with a 4 ERA. He's pitched well. Hamill 1-6 with a 6.75. And then we all wondered what was going to happen when they left. Well, Hendricks 5-1 with a 1.78, and Wada now 4-1 with a 2.56. So that helps.
Yeah. So that's we should have at least given. We should give Wada at least a mention for his game
Yeah, we
today.
probably should. What do you take a no-hitter into the 7th? So
He pitched well today, no doubt.
yeah.
Doesn't it seem like we've had a handful of these like no hitters into like the 6th, 7th inning this year?
Yeah.
Well, Arrieta mostly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mostly Arrieta.
And how crazy is it that, in a 3-game series, so Arrieta pitched the first game against the Orioles, right?
Right.
And so it was like former Oriole, and then Wada was in there. He didn't pitch for Baltimore last year, but he was in their system last year. So they got
Strop
dominated by 2 guys that they had last year.
And Strop.
Yeah.
And Strop too,
2
yeah.
years ago, I guess. So yeah, that was cool. You should call the podcast you were on about the Orioles. Call them back. Be like, yeah, there you go.
You guys want to do a follow-up episode or something? And I was thinking about what Don asked too, and I was thinking, it really does feel like the Cubs are a better team because the team is starting to consist of players that are or are very likely to be in the Cubs' long-term plans. This doesn't feel like the just the patchwork team of July, August, September that we've seen the last couple years.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Jason from New Mexico, he says, how much does God hate Wrigley? And then he says, flood, tarp malfunction, and spider swarm reference.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't like Ghost of Harry Carey says on Twitter all the time. The good Lord hates the Cubs. It sure seems like it sometimes.
But hopefully they're going to get started on making renovations in earnest, and things will get better.
Yeah. Tom says, has Anthony Rizzo questioned your sexuality? And
I think he questioned mine personally.
I don't really think it's Anthony Rizzo's place to question my sexuality. But...
Does he mean has Anthony made you question your own?
Right, I think that's what he means. I don't think he asked if, like, when I went to Wrigley on Thursday, if Rizzo was like, hey, dude,
were you guys at spring training last year and he walked by and was like, whoa, look at those guys?
I think I would have to recuse myself from this conversation, given that on a couple of podcasts ago I mentioned how Anthony Rizzo and Andy looked alike. So I don't think it would be proper for me to comment.
So guys, have I ever made you question your sexuality?
I don't know. You don't swing
and the answer is, I just don't want to make Andy uncomfortable.
How about right now with my soft serve ice cream T-shirt on and my healthy handful of titties?
Oh man. Oh, Rizzo's pretty awesome though.
I like him.
He is.
Well, to go along with that, Jeremy, I'll skip down. Jeremy says, "Do you guys love Rizzo as much as I do?" No, you don't. Yeah, I
take your word for it, Jeremy. I mean, what do you have a shrine or something? Like, what's going on?
It's nice to have players we can really like enough to question our sexuality.
Well, Corey did name his dog after him. So.
That's true.
Enough to finally be able to confidently buy a jersey too.
That's a good point. Yeah. Johnny says, it seems that Baez doesn't get fooled by pitches. It just looks like he swings so hard he misses. Do you see the Cubs changing his approach at all and substituting power with more contact, at least with 2 strikes?
I don't really see him trying to mess with his approach too much. I don't.
They won't this year, for sure.
Season, yeah.
I do think he'll mature, which will lead to better approach with 2 strikes and perhaps better hitters counts. I mean, when Andy was ripping on Baez earlier in the other podcast, he did mention how he doesn't really work good counts. He's done a little better lately, but I think he'll mature. And that's a fair criticism of him.
At times it almost seems like he's made his mind up when he goes up to the plate what he's doing. And so it seems like he either does not work a count at all, and he's swinging like right out of the gate, or it seems like he's going up there to really try to
here's a good
at bat.
Here's a good contrast to that. Like today, Rizzo's at bat, what was that, in like the 6th when he had the RBI? He went up there. I mean, he was swinging for the fences in the first few pitches. He got down 2 strikes, so what does he do? He just, slaps one the other way for a RBI. So right. I think they do that. You learn as a hitter with at bats.
Right. That's
So, and that was a great at bat. by I think a more mature hitter. I think Baez wouldn't have been able to
Unfortunately,
do that yet.
It followed Baez's attempt at a bunt, which please do not bunt. Like,
No.
unless your bunts can also go over the wall, I'd prefer to see.
That might be. That's what he was going for.
He was just really trying
bunt
to
one out.
He's an explosive bunter.
I don't know. I think you're, and I haven't seen every Baez at bat, of course, but like I think Johnny raises a good point that it doesn't really seem like he gets fooled by too many pitches. It just seems like he misses.
Yeah. Well, when they throw it in the same spot over and over.
Yeah, we don't see him getting fooled like Soriano got fooled.
I don't know, man. Okay, no, I'm not even gonna be the naysayer here on Baez.
But in that, I mean, I don't know. I can see it like in the Giants series. What was it? And Bumgarner was pitching like every high fastball. He had to know it was coming. I mean, that's all they were throwing him, and he was missing everything. So
yeah,
because nobody can hit like a 93 mile an hour fastball like
above the Cuba Cuba logo.
But he just kept swinging. So I don't know. I think there's probably you could choose a number of at bats.
He doesn't seem to get fooled by like off speed, low and away, things like that. Because I mean, we see him just kind of go out and poke it, and it goes over the fence. I
do wonder though if that's just sheer athletic ability. Like he's that quick with his hands, he can adjust. But he is kind of fooled, and so he hits it the other way. But he'll get better.
I hope he never hurts his hamate. If he hurts his hamate, I think we're screwed. Let's see. Okay. Aaron says, number one popular question among fans, what beer are you drinking?
I'm currently not drinking anything because I just finished it.
Yeah, me too.
I had a, I'm probably saying this wrong because I'm not German, but a Paulaner Oktoberfest. I know it's not October yet, as I clarified earlier, but it is a good beer.
I'm having a Steamboat IPA from local brewer Bent River, and it's good.
I'm drinking water. Andy says, I read an article that the new Major League Baseball commissioner might negotiate a deal to relax the blackout rule for MLB. Do you think it will happen? I would like to read that article.
I hope so. From what I've read, though, it probably will happen, but you will still have to have a paid TV subscription, kind of like with ESPN now. So you'd have to like log in so that they know you're actually paying for it.
Oh.
So I'd still be screwed. But yeah, they're in serious talks to allow people who are actually in the town of the team to watch the game, which would make a lot of sense. But it won't be as simple as it should be.
Yeah, and I admittedly have not paid much attention to the new Major League Baseball commissioner, and I don't pay a great deal of attention to things that are happening at that level, anyways. But I do know that the new commissioner was basically Selig's right-hand man, right? So that just on the surface, I would tend to think that maybe there won't be any drastic changes because of that, but I don't know.
The DH in the National League.
Yeah.
Reinsdorf didn't like him. We knew that.
No, that's true. That is true. Michael from Colorado says, do you think Javi playing shortstop while Castro is on bereavement leave will have any lasting effects moving forward?
I don't think so. I think, well, for number one, I think Javi's going straight back to second when Castro gets back, but I don't know if that's what he's getting at, if he's saying that. I don't know. What do you guys think he's getting at there?
I think he's asking, is he threatening Castro in any way for the job?
I don't think so.
I don't either. He has looked good at short, but I would agree. I don't think he's.
I think if anybody's going to challenge Castro, it's going to be Russell.
Yep.
Well, but I guess I would imagine that. I guess that's the kind of one of the benefits of having players that can play a lot of different positions or have played different positions at the different levels, because when something like this happens or somebody goes on the DL, you've got, if Castro is to go to the DL, the Cubs have a shortstop there right now ready. So, and it's a little bit different than when we had. Valbuena played some short, right, and Barney did, and I think that's a bigger drop off than if you have Baez playing over there.
Yeah.
I was talking with a podcast listener today, and they will remain anonymous because they suggested that we should have a new way for people to anonymously submit questions that they feel are dumb baseball questions. And because we do it through like Facebook or whatever, and maybe they want a question answer but don't want people to know who they are, that they asked that question. But and the question was based on today's game, and so Logan Watkins came up with 1 out and no one on in an inning, and then bunted, and they wondered why would you bunt in that situation of 1 out and nobody on. So first off, we welcome your dumb baseball questions. So
it doesn't sound that dumb, first of all.
No, it doesn't. But don't ever, like, if you're listening out there and you think like, oh, I don't want to ask those guys because it's dumb. We are very dumb ourselves, and so we would.
Hold on.
I get too hasty there.
I don't know. I just, I don't think, I'm not going to say the old. There's no such thing as a dumb question.
Well,
but I
don't know.
But
I guess I would say.
Do you
there's
have any input on that particular question?
I guess I would. I didn't actually see it, so I don't really know. But I guess you're either trying to, when you bunt, you're either advancing a runner or you're trying to bunt for a hit, right?
Right.
Right.
Well, he thought he could get on by exploiting a weakness in the defense.
You're practicing for next spring training's bunt competition.
Well, in the game, this came right after a home run. God save me, I can't remember who hit the homer right before that, but Alcantara's homer.
Right.
And so it came right after that, and so I think he was thinking, maybe this would be the perfect opportunity to kind of ambush him and bunt for a hit. That's right. The way that I saw it. And when he bunted it, he made a little bit too much hard contact. It was a little bit of like a Javi Baez-esque explosive bunt. And so he didn't deaden it very much. He was trying to kind of send it down the third base line, and so it just didn't end up being that great of a bunt. But he made it a close play at first. So if it would have been a better bunt, he would have made it.
Right. So he probably identified that the third baseman was sitting maybe a little too far back and thought he can deaden it a little bit off his bat and then use his speed to try to get down to first. But
yeah.
Okay, well, this week's episode is brought to you by our Hall of Fame Patreon supporters, including our associate producer, Matt Macer, and our other Hall of Fame level supporters are Michael, Shane, Tony, Jane, Andrew, Charles, Sean, Dallas, and Jeremy. And we'd also like to thank some of the other supporters, Tyson, Chris, Drew, Patrick, Don, Andrew, Herb, and UK Bob. And Patreon is an easy way for you to financially help keep this podcast going. It's kind of like Kickstarter, and you can pledge to donate an amount monthly amount to us, and it starts at just $1 a month. And there's perks at every levels, and they get better as the levels go up. And everything that we're making from the Patreon campaign is going back into the podcast, helping us cover hosting and bandwidth costs, equipment upgrades, helping us pay for stuff that we'd like to do with the podcast, and for to make the podcast better for you. So we do appreciate the support from everyone that donates money every month. And if you'd like to take some ownership in the podcast by doing this, you can go to patreon.com/IVMB. That's patreon.com/IVMB. And for anyone that pledges, it's at $5 a month or higher. We do monthly hangouts, which we actually skipped last month, but we're going to do this month's on Tuesday, right? Is that what we decided?
Mm-hmm.
I believe so.
We're gonna try,
I'll be sending a message out through Patreon on how to join it, but basically we'll just open up a hangout, and we'll hang out and watch the Cubs and talk and just kind of, share. I guess we'll share with each other what we're drinking that night. Sorry, I lost my notes. Photo caption. Let's do it. We haven't done one of these in a while, huh, guys?
Yeah, it's been a little while.
So, let's see. My windows are all frozen. The picture is from earlier in the season, and it's I believe Justin Grimm is warming up, and let's see who's there. Barney, Rizzo, Castro, and Olt are standing watching, and Barney kind of has his glove. Most of these captions are based on the fact that Barney, for whatever reason, it doesn't even look like it's particularly cold there, but has his glove tucked into his shirt or his jersey. I don't know. Am I missing anything there, guys?
It just looks like he's about to give birth to a healthy baby glove.
Right. So, Andy, do you want to start on the Facebook ones, and then I'll jump in? I've got Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah, let's do this. The first caption comes from Scott, and it reads, "Oh man, things are about to get grim." Don says, "Darwin Barney's impending maternity leave has everyone on edge. Castro nervously hopes he remembers everything he was taught in spring training Lamaze class."
Castro does look kind of nervous, like kind of a concerned, worried.
Gnawing on his
Biting his
nose.
fingernails.
Sean wrote, "While the rest of the infield watched Grimm warm up, Darwin could only think of his terrifying secret that everyone would know eventually. Telling others would be daunting enough, but the moment Darwin truly feared was telling Anthony." Scott says, "Barney, I'll bet you $1 that they don't trade me." Huh. Guess he won that one. Jason wrote, "Rizzo, I don't think that's how the hidden ball trick works." Charles wrote, "Anyone seen my glove?" Derek says, "As the Cubs employ a never-seen infield shift, the rest of the infield is still unsure of why Barney ate his glove." Okay. It says "at his glove." Still unsure of why Barney ate his glove. Maybe he thought he was a dinosaur. Popular 90s young kids show reference. Clint wrote, "Okay, who's the father?" JP says, "Riz, haha, too slow, I got your $1. Insurance company commercial reference. Which I like. I love that commercial. I don't know if you guys have seen that one.
I don't think I've seen it.
The old man
the old guy.
with a...
Oh,
Gotta be faster
okay.
than that? Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That is a good one.
Oh, you nearly had it. All right, Justin says, maybe we can turn some of these shortstops into pitchers. David wrote, all right, who farted?
All right, let me jump in with a few.
All right.
The first one from Twitter is from Jason. He's at baseball_rights. And he says, Rizzo, Darwin, is that the guy? Barney, yes, he left. He got me pregnant with his child, and then he left. Castro, let's get the bastard. And then one from Instagram. This is from Luke Jett, who writes for the website, and he said, "In here we all thought the reason Darwin went on maternity leave was because his wife was pregnant." And that's what I got, Andy. Take it away.
Okay. Steve wrote, he's been stuck like that for over an hour. Anyone else have any ideas about what we should do? This would be like like Grimm is frozen in time. Tad says, Rizzo, great, we've got a compulsive nail biter and a... Barney, what the hell are you doing? Tim wrote, aw, look, they're having a little bizzo. Barney and Rizzo combo. Adam wrote, oh yeah, Barney's arm bent so far back it broke clean off. Michael says, not only did the Cubs cut ground crew members because of Obamacare, but they designate Barney for assignment a couple of months prior to his maternity leave. Under Theo, no benefits will remain. Alex writes, while no one would say it out loud, they're all thinking the same thing. Grim sure has a nice ass. Nick says, damn it, why do I have to stand next to Darbar? What the hell is he doing anyway? Is that a thing, Star? Stuffing your glove in your shirt is a thing? Holy shit, maybe I need to rethink this whole Major League Baseball player career if I'm going to be associated with this. Michael says, Exhibit A in the Equal Employment Opportunity lawsuit that Darwin Barney has taken out against the Cubs, where he claims that he was DFA'd due to his pregnancy. Karen says, that last rain delay was so long, the Cubs were able to trade to get Darwin Barney back, and he's ready to give birth to his next child. Taylor says, Rizzo's worst nightmare. Darwin Barney is back and is giving birth to their baby on the infield while Michael watches. Hoax says, Rizzo is tired of Barney's one-man alien show. But Castro can't take the suspense. Sam writes, Barney, I'm due in September, and I might be out of a job soon. Oh, man.
Is that all of them?
Yep.
Oh, man. I think I am going to go with Don's. I like that one, but I can't pull it up right now. So
Yeah, I'm trying to look at them.
Hers was Castro nervously hopes he remembers everything he was taught in spring training Lamaze class.
yeah.
No, that's good.
And I do like the one about no
Benefits.
Yeah, no benefit under Theo, no benefits will remain.
That's a good one too. I could go for that one.
Michael. That was Michael.
Yeah. I knew Michael.
Yeah,
I'll go with that one. That's my vote. Doesn't matter what you say, Andy.
Michael from Costa Rica.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. All right, let's do it.
Nice.
Michael from
job,
Costa
Michael.
Rica.
Honorable mention to Hoax alien reference. I thought that was pretty good.
All right. Well, let's do the internet muscle flex. We've gone a little bit longer again, of course, this week. So
You didn't even stop at scary
oh,
stat.
I didn't
You
do
blew right
yeah.
by it.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Kurt, what's your
I
scary
feel
stat
like
of the week?
it's getting sneaky. Well, no, it's sort of.
I gotta put my
who
notes
cares?
together for this episode. Like,
Well, you're obviously not
many
looking at the
different
sheet because I
points.
wrote it in.
no, I'm.
But all right, well, let's get to it. And I've been waiting for this moment. So that's why, if it wasn't a very good one, I would have interrupted. But I've been waiting for the moment for Chris Bryant to cross the equivalent of a major league season, and he's done that. He's played 166 games now. So let's just pretend that's a season and they played in the playoffs. And so here are the numbers. He has 51 home runs, 138 RBIs. He's hitting a mere 335. OVP is 434 and slugging 684. So that's an OPS of 1.117. And the other cool thing is that he has a total of 197 hits, and over half of them are extra base hits. Most of those home runs, or half of those home runs. So 101 of his 197 hits are for extra bases. So if this were a major league season, it'd be a pretty good one. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
He's a stud.
Dang.
So for those of you waiting for him to bust, doesn't look like he will.
Well, so that's kind of a good segue to my internet muscle flex, Kurt.
Good. See, maybe you did this intentionally.
Yeah, I'm sure I did. So my internet.
Oh, sorry. I wanted to share one more thing. Sorry,
yeah,
I
go
totally
ahead.
missed this. But just because this is crazy. But yesterday, he was 2 for 3 with a home run and 4 walks.
Man, were any of them intentional? I wonder.
I would assume so. But the funny thing, he hit the home run in the 6th, so he had to have had a couple walks. But I don't have the full inning by inning pulled up,
Right.
but he had to have had a couple before that point. That's a pretty crazy line.
Yeah, he's an exciting player. I can't wait to see him come up.
Heck yeah.
Okay, so my internet muscle flex this week comes from the previously mentioned Rick Tellender. Is that how you say it? I don't even know. I don't care, I guess.
Yeah.
However you say his name. His piece that he wrote in the Sun Times. And the title of this piece is called "The Cubs: A Franchise Stuck in the Mud." So you know it's going to be good. So one of the I'm going to pull out one of the paragraphs in here. It's towards the end of his article, and it says, "Someday Chris Bryant will be old, still in Des Moines, a beard flowing like Abe Lincoln's from his chin, 1,000 or so minor league home runs to his credit. Starlin Castro will have won a World Series crown with the Yankees and be long retired. His shortstop replacement, Javi Baez, will have followed the Sox's Gordon Beckham to the Angels and out of baseball. A new Kerry Wood clone for the Cubs will have turned his 20-year-old arm into mush while pitching 15 consecutive innings of no-hit ball against the Reds, then losing."
Oh my gosh.
You know what my favorite part of that scenario is? Is that Chris Bryant hits 1,000 minor league home runs but never makes it. They're like, still got them things to work on.
Right.
We want to see him struggle first. We're not going to call him up until he struggles.
Right.
Damn it, Chris. Stop hitting home runs.
A beard flowing like Abe Lincoln's.
Oh, gosh.
Which I like. Oh, what a tool. How do people...
Yeah,
like
that was one
get
of the
a
worst
job?
articles I read.
Yes. That dude, and I haven't, not being from Chicago, I don't pay a lot of attention to Chicago print media people or anything. But that man, he's a douchebag.
He is.
I think we should. Oh, wait a minute. Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
What's up?
Oh, I played
I know
the
what he's
ass hat
looking
of the.
for.
I played the ass hat of the
We
week.
couldn't hear it.
Oh.
Oh, man. Okay, well, I've got a muscle flex, too. And it's from the same old crew we usually hear from. But it starts with somebody saying, "There's even talk of maybe getting to the 90 loss or under club. The rah-rahs are coming out of the woodwork, LOL. Really? If when we end up 10 or 15 games under 500, foaming at the mouth Cubs fans will call that progress. Book it." And the next one says, "The day is the best." This is the best. "The day the Cubs win the World Series, you'll be the biggest rah-rah west of the Mississippi." And then they say, "Oh, well, we shook the trees and look what popped out. Another rah-rah." Oh, man. I just love the rah-rah talk.
Oh, man.
Shook the trees.
And look
Another rah-rah.
Look what we have here.
Mm-hmm. But
Oh, man. You can always go to that crew for internet muscle.
I know. Once I see one of them pop up, I know there's a long thread. There's usually a
There's some good
good flex in there.
All right, well, that does it for this week's episode. The Cubs have some road games against divisional opponents this week. First, the Cubs go to Cincinnati to play the Reds Tuesday through Thursday, and then they head to St. Louis to play 4 games in 3 days, the doubleheader being on Saturday. Man, I would love to see the Cubs put the nail in the coffin for the Reds' postseason dreams, and I think they can do it this week. That would be... I would love to see a sweep in St. Louis.
That would be nice. They haven't played well against the Reds this year.
No,
but
they
hopefully
haven't. The Reds are in a
turn it around.
tailspin, though, so I think they can get them. So we will be back next Sunday evening to talk about these 2 series, and if you'd like to watch and listen live, go to ivmb.com/live at 8:30 p.m. Central. And I was thinking about, Andy, are you going to be in studio next Sunday night?
Yes. Yeah, maybe.
Okay. So that would be cool. But thanks for downloading and listening, and thanks to everyone that watched this live tonight. And until next Sunday evening, go Cubs.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I keep getting followed on Twitter by some it's called Chicago Cubs fans, all one word, but I get a notification that they're following me every day. It's like they
You know what
unfollow me and
they're
follow me
probably
again.
doing? They probably are doing that, hoping that you'll follow them back.
Oh. Well,
It's
I think
annoying.
I already am though.
That's pretty fun.
Anyway.
All
Hey, did
right.
your mom get those pokey tickets?
I think so.
Corey?
Let me. Can you hear me?
I just want to make sure. Yeah, because otherwise I'll just run down there and get one.
That's hilarious. Did your mom get those pokey tickets? For someone that has no idea what you're talking about, it just sounds really funny.
Yeah, don't explain it either.
Did she like commit a crime worthy of going to jail? Is like it's code for that. She's going to the pokey.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she did, but because I know she was
Okay.
it was very important to her. So,
Oh, good. Yeah.
but I'll find out tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to miss that one.
No. All right, I think I'm gonna go, guys.
Cool.
All right.
So get this thing posted. Oh, I was thinking as far as episode titles go, I heard I wrote down a couple.
There was one in.
How about
Sorry. Go
how about the golden age is coming to some degree?
No, there's what he in one of his questions. He said something. Bryant-Baez flavored something. I thought that was awesome. Bryant-Baez flavored.
Man, my
Success?
computer, I might lose you guys. He said,
Okay.
I got it right here. It was
Flavored joy.
Yes,
Bryant-
Bryant-Baez flavored joy. I like that.
Okay, we can do that.
Or explosive bunter.
Yes, explosive bunter is good too.
I also
He's an explosive bunter. Yeah, that's.
I also like we shook the trees and look what popped out. Kind of long.
Wow, we've never had so many options.
All right, I'm gonna get this thing going.
All right.
Cool.
See
All
you
right,
later.
we'll see you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.